The fading hum of static filled the cramped radio room as Alex Harper stared at the flickering broadcast equipment. Outside, the world had fallen into chaos, but inside this small bunker beneath the ruins of a once bustling city, a fragile hope still lingered. It was the last day of America as anyone remembered it, a day when silence threatened to swallow everything. But Alex was determined that the final broadcast would not be just static and forgotten echoes. It would be a message. A warning. A record. Alex's voice trembled slightly as he adjusted the microphone. This is station WDRX, broadcasting what might be the last signal from America. If anyone is out there, if anyone is listening, this is what we faced. This is what's left. The words felt heavy in the stale air. For weeks, the radio had been a lifeline. Between desperate transmissions from survivors and chilling reports of the undead hordes, Alex and his small team had pieced together the nightmare unraveling outside. A virus, nobody knew where it had started, had spread faster than wildfire, turning the infected into something not quite alive, but certainly no longer human. Every day, the infected multiplied. Cities crumbled. Governments collapsed. And in the void, the undead roamed freely, hungry for flesh, unstoppable in their relentless pursuit. The bunker's worn walls shook faintly as distant tremors rumbled through the earth, the echoes of destruction outside. Alex glanced at the others in the room, Lena, a sharp-eyed medic whose calm demeanor belied the chaos outside, Marcus, the grizzled former firefighter who'd taken on the role of protector, and Sophie, a teenager who'd found herself thrown into this nightmare, her wide eyes filled with a mix of fear and determination. This broadcast, it's not just about us, Alex continued, tightening his grip on the microphone. It's for those who might be out there, struggling to survive. Maybe they can learn from our mistakes. Maybe they can find a way to fight back. The signal crackled, barely reaching beyond the bunker's concrete walls, but Alex refused to believe it was in vain. Suddenly, the sharp beep of the radio's scanner interrupted the broadcast. Static. A voice. Faint, distorted. Anyone, help, safe, east of here. Alex's heart raced. For a moment, hope sparked. Someone else was out there. He keyed the mic, his voice urgent. This is WDRX. We read you. Where exactly are you? The voice was barely audible, breaking apart with each word. Old refinery, west side, surrounded, zombies. Lena frowned, quickly scanning a map spread across the table. The old refinery was only a few miles away from their bunker. If that's true, she said, voice steady despite the tension, we can't just leave them. Marcus nodded, loading his weapon with methodical care. It's a death trap, but it's a chance. We can't ignore a call for help. Sophie's gaze flickered between them. But if we go out there, what if it's a trap? What if it's worse than we think? Alex met her eyes. Every day's worse. But doing nothing means giving up. We can't give up. The team began preparations, gathering supplies and weapons with practiced efficiency. Outside, the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the ruined cityscape. The silence was broken only by distant, guttural noises, the undead on the move. As they loaded into the battered truck, Alex took one last look at the bunker's equipment. The radio, still alive, was their connection to a world that was disappearing fast. Driving through empty streets littered with abandoned cars and debris, the group stayed alert. Every corner held a threat. Every shadow might hide death. When they reached the refinery, the scene was worse than expected. Flames flickered from broken tanks, smoke rising into the darkening sky. The building's metal skeleton was twisted and scarred. And outside, slow, shambling figures moved in restless packs, their vacant eyes glowing faintly in the twilight. Lena motioned for silence. We need to find survivors fast. Navigating carefully, they slipped past the zombies, moving toward a faint cry for help echoing from inside. Suddenly, a low growl cut through the air. A larger figure emerged, more aggressive, faster than the rest. It lunged. Marcus stepped forward without hesitation, meeting the creature with a fierce blow that sent it crashing to the ground. The fight was brutal but brief, a reminder that every encounter could be their last. Inside the refinery's ruined office, they found a small group of survivors, weary, frightened, but alive. Among them was an elderly man clutching a battered radio transmitter, his hands shaking. "I thought no one was left," he whispered. Alex stepped forward. "We're not. And we're here to get you out." As they prepared to leave, the old man handed Alex the transmitter. "I recorded something, before it all went dark. A message from someone important, something you need to hear." Back in the truck, the team exchanged glances. Whatever this message was, it might hold the key to understanding how everything fell apart, and maybe how to survive what was left. Alex looked out over the shattered landscape, the radio's crackling hum the last link to a world slipping away. The final broadcast had just begun. Would you like me to continue with part 2 next? I can keep the story building suspense and uncovering more layers of mystery and survival. The truck rattled down the cracked highway, its headlights cutting through the thick night. Inside, Alex held the battered radio transmitter carefully, as if it were a fragile relic from a lost world. The dim glow of the dashboard reflected in the tense faces around him. Lena glanced over, her voice low but firm. "If this message really is from someone important, it could change everything. Or it could just be another dead end." Marcus grunted, eyes scanning the dark road ahead. "Doesn't matter. We've seen enough dead ends. Might as well see what this one holds." Sophie, clutching her backpack tightly, shivered despite the stale warmth inside the truck. "I just want to know why this happened. How did it all go so wrong?" Alex stared out the window at the desolate landscape, empty streets swallowed by shadow, abandoned homes with shattered windows, and the distant glow of fires still burning. "That's what we need to find out." Once back in the bunker, the team gathered around the old radio setup. The transmitter was fragile and worn, but Alex carefully connected it to the receiver. Static filled the room, followed by a crackling voice, faint but clear enough to understand. "This is Dr. Elias Harper," the voice began, steady and authoritative. "If you are hearing this, it means everything has gone terribly wrong. The outbreak has spread beyond control. What follows is a record of what we discovered, what we tried to stop, and what we could not." The name sent a chill through the room. Elias Harper, Alex's father, a renowned scientist who had vanished when the virus first broke out. No one had heard from him since. Alex swallowed hard, gripping the edge of the table. "My father?" Lena nodded slowly. "If he recorded this, it might explain everything." The broadcast continued. "Our research began months before the outbreak. We believed the virus was a biological weapon, but it was unlike anything we'd seen. It mutated quickly, turning infected into what we call the reanimated, bodies that should be dead but aren't. The reanimated show no signs of higher brain function, driven only by instinct. They are not alive. They are not human." A long pause, then Elias's voice was tinged with exhaustion. "Our initial plan was containment, but the virus spread faster than expected. Cities fell. Governments collapsed. In our final days at the research facility, we developed a possible cure, a serum that could reverse the infection in early stages. But the cure requires a stable subject, and time we no longer had." Sophie's eyes widened. "A cure?" "Yes," Elias's voice grew firmer. "There is hope. But it's fragile hope. The facility was overrun. The serum was lost. This recording is to inform any survivors, to warn them of what's coming, and to guide them toward what remains." Static crackled, then a sudden burst of urgent voices, warnings, alarms, frantic shouts. The recording cut abruptly. Alex slammed his fist on the table. He was here, trying to stop it. Trying to save people. Lena leaned forward. "We need to find the research facility. If that serum exists, it could be our only chance." Marcus shook his head. "It won't be easy. The facility's in the city center, a death trap now. The reanimated have taken over." Sophie bit her lip. But if we don't try, we're already lost. As the weight of the decision settled over them, a new sound crackled through the radio, faint, but unmistakable, a distress signal, repeating over and over. Alex grabbed the mic. This is WDRX. We hear your signal. Identify yourself. No response. Only static. But the signal was close. Closer than the refinery. Closer than the bunker. Outside, the wind whispered through broken windows, carrying with it a promise, a challenge. The final broadcast was no longer just a message. It was a call to action. Alex looked at his team, determination hardening his features. We're going to the facility. We have to find my father's work, and the cure. The silence in the room was thick, but beneath it lay a fragile pulse of hope. The fight for dead America's future had just begun. Want me to move on to part 3 and continue unraveling the mystery and suspense? The first light of dawn barely pierced through the heavy clouds as the team prepared to leave the bunker. Outside, the city was unrecognizable, streets swallowed by debris, buildings scarred by fire and neglect. The once vibrant heart of America was now a shadowed tomb. Alex tightened the straps on his backpack, the weight of the transmitter and his father's recording tucked safely inside. He glanced at Lena, who checked the medical supplies one last time, her face unreadable but resolute. Everyone ready? Marcus's voice broke the silence, rough and steady like the ground beneath their feet. Sophie nodded, gripping the worn handle of her baseball bat. As ready as we'll ever be. Their mission was clear but dangerous: reach the old research facility deep in the city center, retrieve whatever data or serum might remain, and return. But between them and the facility lay miles of ruin, and worse, packs of reanimated that roamed with terrifying unpredictability. The group moved cautiously, slipping through shadows and ruins, every sound amplified in the eerie quiet. Occasionally, distant groans and guttural growls reminded them of the relentless threat lurking just out of sight. Lena paused at a crumbled intersection, scanning the map. We have to avoid main roads. Too exposed. The alleys and subway tunnels might be safer. Marcus grunted in agreement. We'll move slow. Keep quiet. Stay together. As they entered the subterranean tunnels, the cold air was thick with decay. Flickering lights cast ghostly shapes along the walls. The sound of dripping water echoed, masking their footsteps. Suddenly, a distant shuffle. A low moan. The unmistakable signs of the reanimated nearby. Alex signaled for silence. Holding their breath, they pressed forward, hearts pounding. Then, from the shadows, a sudden movement. A lone figure stumbled into the tunnel, clothes torn, eyes wild but human. Help, the figure whispered hoarsely, collapsing against the wall. Sophie rushed forward, pulling out a water bottle. We've got to help them. Lena checked the stranger quickly for injuries and signs of infection. No bites, but they're weak. The newcomer managed to gasp out a name. Jared, worked at the facility, left before it fell. There's still a lab, serum, hidden. Alex's heart quickened. Where is it? Tell us. Jared coughed violently. Deep, in the basement, behind a locked door, codes on my tablet. I can get it for you, but I can't go back, too many out there. Marcus exchanged a look with Alex. We need that serum. But can we trust him? Alex nodded slowly. We don't have a choice. With Jared leading, the group moved deeper into the bowels of the city, the weight of every step pressing on them. The once thriving facility loomed ahead, a rusted skeleton of metal and concrete. Inside, silence reigned, broken only by distant echoes and the faint hum of failing machinery. Jared pulled out a cracked tablet, fingers trembling as he typed in the code. The heavy metal door groaned open, revealing a stairway descending into darkness. Alex flicked on his flashlight, the beam cutting through thick dust. They descended cautiously, senses heightened. At the bottom, a small lab filled with shattered glass, overturned equipment, and the faint scent of chemicals awaited them. Lena quickly began scanning for anything usable. This must be it, but the serum, where? Jared pointed to a reinforced safe. In there. Marcus pried open the safe, revealing several sealed vials, their liquid still intact. Alex held one up, heart pounding. This is it. The cure. Suddenly, a distant crash echoed through the tunnels, heavy footsteps, guttural snarls, the unmistakable advance of the reanimated. We need to move. Now, Marcus urged. With the serum secured, the team raced back up the stairs, Jared faltering but determined to stay with them. As they emerged from the facility, the city's dangers closed in fast. The undead were everywhere, shadows shifting, eyes glowing in the gloom. Gunfire erupted. Marcus took point, covering their retreat while Alex and Lena protected Sophie and Jared. The narrow escape was brutal, hearts pounding, breath ragged. Finally, back at the bunker, the heavy doors slammed shut behind them. Alex placed the serum vial on the table, the fragile hope of survival gleaming under the dim light. But the night was far from over. Outside, the undead pressed closer, and the silence was growing heavier. Alex looked at his team, voice steady but urgent. This isn't just about surviving anymore. It's about fighting back. And it starts here. Want to jump into part 4? We can delve deeper into the serum's secrets, potential dangers, and new revelations about the outbreak. The bunker's heavy metal door sealed shut with a final, echoing clang. Inside, the dim lights flickered as the team gathered around the small table where the vial of serum rested. Its translucent liquid shimmered faintly, a fragile beacon of hope in a world gone dark. Alex stared at it, conflicted. We have the cure, but what if it's not as simple as it seems? My father's message warned us, this serum needs perfect conditions, and the timing has to be right. Lena nodded, pulling out her medical kit. We'll have to run tests. If it's viable, we need to know how to administer it, and who we can save. Jared, still pale but recovering, shifted uneasily. There's something else you should know. Before the facility fell, strange things started happening. Not just with the infected, but with people exposed to the serum. Marcus frowned. What do you mean? Jared swallowed hard. Some who took the early version, they didn't just get better. They changed. Not like the reanimated. Worse. Unpredictable. Dangerous. A cold silence fell over the room. Sophie hugged her knees, eyes wide. You mean, the cure could make things worse? Exactly, Jared said quietly. It's a risk. But without it, we're out of options. Alex paced, mind racing. The serum might be their only chance to reverse the nightmare, but it could also unleash something new, something unknown. Lena started preparing the lab equipment salvaged from the bunker. We'll start with animal samples first. See what happens. Hours passed with slow, painstaking work. The team worked in tense silence, every noise outside a reminder of the dangers lurking beyond their fragile sanctuary. Suddenly, the radio crackled, static, then a faint voice. It was the distress signal again. Alex grabbed the mic. This is WDRX. We received your message. Identify yourself. A trembling voice responded, My name's Dana. I'm trapped in the hospital on 5th. We have survivors, but we're running out of supplies. Please, help. Lena glanced up. If the hospital still has survivors, they could be key to rebuilding. Marcus checked his weapon. Going out there is a risk, but leaving them to die isn't an option. Alex made the decision. We'll send a team. But we move fast and stay alert. As the group prepared to leave, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that time was running out, not just because of the undead outside, but because whatever secrets the serum held might change everything. The darkness pressed in, and with it, the promise of new horrors, or salvation. Ready for part 5? We can explore the hospital rescue and deeper secrets behind the outbreak and the serum's true power. The team moved like shadows through the ruins of the city, the hospital looming in the distance like a forgotten relic from another life. Its windows were shattered, its front doors barely hanging on their hinges, and the silence surrounding it was suffocating. Alex led the way, radio strapped to his shoulder, the last message from Dana still echoing in his mind. 5th floor. Pediatrics wing. We're barricaded in. Please hurry. Sophie stuck close behind him, nervously watching every alley they passed. Marcus, ever the protector, scanned the rooftops and narrow streets for movement, his rifle held tight. Lena carried a small med kit, already anticipating what they might find inside. As they reached the hospital's entrance, the stench of mold, dust, and dried decay greeted them like a wall. Alex pushed the doors open slowly, flashlight slicing through the darkness. "Stay sharp," Marcus murmured. "This place hasn't been quiet for long." They entered cautiously. The lobby was trashed, overturned gurneys, shattered monitors, dried blood trailing across the floor. But there were no signs of recent struggle. Only abandonment. The elevator was long dead. The stairwell, however, was passable, though the air inside felt thicker with every step they climbed. By the time they reached the 5th floor, they could hear it, faint scratching, low groans, and then, voices. Human ones. Alex approached the door labeled Pediatrics Wing, and knocked 3 times, the code Dana had mentioned. A moment later, it opened just a crack. A tired face peered out. A young woman, eyes hollow but alive. "You made it," Dana whispered. "Thank God." She pulled the door wider, revealing a room of survivors, 3 adults, 2 children, all emaciated but breathing. The windows had been barricaded, and food supplies were nearly gone. The air smelled like desperation. "We thought we were done for," Dana said, her voice shaking. "We haven't heard anything on the radio in days, then your broadcast came through." Lena moved to check on the youngest child, who was burning with fever. "He's dehydrated and sick, but I think he'll make it if we move fast." Just then, a noise echoed through the hallway, fast, skittering footsteps. Not the lumbering kind of a typical zombie. This was different. Marcus froze. Everyone, quiet. The sound grew louder. Then, a crash. The door to the stairwell flew open. From the darkness emerged something twisted, humanoid, but too fast, too agile. Its limbs moved unnaturally, and its eyes gleamed with an intelligence that normal reanimated didn't possess. Alex whispered, "What is that?" Jared's words echoed in his mind. They didn't just get better. They changed. The creature let out a guttural screech and lunged. Marcus fired. The bullet struck its shoulder, but it barely slowed. Chaos erupted as everyone scrambled for cover. Alex grabbed one of the children, pulling them behind a metal filing cabinet while Sophie and Dana ushered the others to safety. Lena tossed Marcus a flash grenade, one of the few they'd salvaged from the bunker's storage. "Now," she shouted. The flash exploded in a burst of blinding light. The creature reeled, shrieking, slamming into a wall before darting out the door and disappearing down the hallway. Silence returned, thick, heavy, and tense. Alex caught his breath. That wasn't normal. That thing, it was evolved. Dana nodded slowly, eyes wide. "You're not the first to say that. 2 days ago, we saw another. It didn't attack us, it just watched. Then left." Lena looked down at the feverish child. "If this is what the serum caused, we might be facing something worse than zombies." They gathered the survivors quickly. It was time to leave before more creatures returned. As they headed back to the bunker, Alex knew one thing for certain. This outbreak wasn't over. It was changing. And whatever came next, would be smarter, faster, and deadlier. Want part 6 next? That's when the bunker becomes a target, and trust begins to crack. The journey back to the bunker was tense and silent, broken only by the soft whimpers of the rescued children and the ever-present crackle of static on the radio. The streets were darker than usual. The creatures, whatever they were, had vanished into the night like they owned it. Alex kept his eyes on every corner, every rooftop. His mind wasn't just on survival anymore. It was on what Jared had said. They changed. By the time the team returned to the safety of the underground facility, exhaustion was setting in. Dana guided the survivors to the lower rooms, while Lena began immediate care on the sick boy. Marcus stood at the entrance tunnel for an extra hour, watching the monitors, uneasy. Jared met Alex near the lab. "I saw it," Alex said. "One of those things." "You were right. It wasn't undead. It was something else." Jared's face was grim. "I think we've been asking the wrong questions. This isn't just about curing the virus anymore. It's about what the virus is evolving into." Lena called them both into the lab. She pointed to the test slides under the microscope. "This is a sample from the child we just brought back," she said, her voice low. "There are markers here I've never seen before. It's like the infection is mutating within hosts, and adapting rapidly." Jared added, "Some of the infected, they don't rot. They get stronger. Faster. Their minds, partially intact. But twisted. Controlled by something." Alex leaned over the microscope. "Are you saying, they're becoming something new? Not zombies, but something worse?" Lena nodded. "The serum might not be a cure anymore. It might be fuel." A siren blared suddenly, not from the outer sensors, but from within the bunker itself. Marcus's voice came through the intercom. "We've got movement in the west corridor. Someone's inside." Everyone froze. Alex grabbed his rifle. "Lock down the lab. Nobody leaves. Jared, with me." They raced down the metal corridors toward the security hub. The lights flickered, emergency power kicking in. On the surveillance screen, they saw it, a figure walking slowly down the hallway. Human. Alone. Alex hit the intercom. "Identify yourself." The figure paused, then turned to the nearest camera. It was a man. Older. Calm. Wearing a lab coat. "Dr. Emerson?" Jared gasped. "That's him. That's the original lead researcher on the project. He disappeared when everything collapsed." Alex leaned in. "How did he get in here?" The man didn't respond directly. He simply pressed a hand against the glass outside the control room and said, "You're asking the wrong questions. It was never about saving people. It was about seeing how far we could go." Alex slammed the intercom. "What do you want?" Dr. Emerson smiled. "You already have it. The serum. But you're playing with fire in a leaking bunker. You think this place is safe? You brought the virus inside the walls the moment you stepped back in." Then he turned and walked away. Alarms spiked again, but now from the lower floors. Marcus's voice, panicked, "We've got one of those things down here. It's in the ventilation shaft." Screams echoed in the background. Gunfire. The lights dimmed further. Alex spun around. He let them in. That man wasn't alone. Jared looked pale. They knew we had the serum. They want it back. Alex gave one final look at the flickering hallway monitors. "Lock everything. Protect the lab at all costs." As they ran back, Alex realized the truth was worse than he imagined. They hadn't just found the cure. They had found the bait. Screams echoed through the metal corridors. The vents rattled above them. Some things, were inside the bunker. The nightmare they had tried to keep outside had followed them in. Alex sprinted toward the lab. Lena was sealing the doors, her hands shaking as she typed in the lockdown code. Inside, Dana cradled the feverish boy while Sophie and one of the rescued survivors tried to calm the terrified children. "They're in the ventilation system," Alex panted. "We have to assume full breach. This place is no longer safe." Marcus's voice crackled over the comms. "One of the soldiers, Terry, he's been infected. Bitten during the hospital run. He never said anything." Alex slammed his fist against the wall. "Where is he now?" "Storage level. Sealed in. But not for long." Jared joined them, out of breath. Dr. Emerson is gone. Vanished. Like he was never here. Alex stared at the security monitor. He let the creatures in. It was intentional. He wanted the infection to spread, inside this bunker. Jared swallowed hard. He said we were the experiment now. Down below, the power grid flickered again. Something had damaged the generator. The lights buzzed, and the security feed cut in and out. Lena pulled Alex aside. The fever's not viral. It's withdrawal. Alex blinked. Withdrawal from what? Lena hesitated. He was on the serum. They've been using it to hold off the infection. Not cure it. Just delay it. His body's crashing without it. Jared added grimly, that's what the new strain wants. It doesn't just spread anymore, it feeds on the serum. The infected are adapting to it. They're changing faster with it. Alex stared at the flickering lights. So the cure has become fertilizer. A loud bang shook the walls. Everyone jumped. Then another. From inside the ventilation shaft near the lab. Sophie's eyes widened. They're trying to break into the lab. Alex handed her a rifle. Get the survivors to the backup exit tunnel. Take Dana and the kids. We can't keep them here. Lena protested. What about the samples? The data? Alex looked at her. We burn it. If it can't help us, it won't help them. Jared agreed. We've already lost containment. If this spreads beyond the bunker, there's no stopping it. As Sophie led the survivors away, the banging grew louder. Then, metal groaned, and the vent burst open. One of them dropped through. Fast. Twisted. Still vaguely human but with sharpened limbs, glistening black eyes, and a screech that froze the blood in their veins. It lunged. Marcus fired from the corridor, riddling the creature with bullets. It staggered, howled, but didn't go down. Alex grabbed an emergency incendiary and flung it forward. The blast lit up the hallway, the flames swallowing the creature whole. They didn't wait to see if it screamed again. Alex, Marcus, Jared, and Lena sprinted down the corridor. At the junction, Jared broke off toward the storage wing. I'll deal with Terry, he said. You get to the data core. We need to destroy everything before it's too late. Alex hesitated. Don't let him turn. Jared gave a grim nod. If he already has. I won't hesitate. As they ran deeper into the collapsing bunker, Alex knew the final act had begun. It was no longer about finding a cure. It was about erasing what had been found. Because the silence Dana had spoken of, the silence on the airwaves, was never empty. It was waiting. Listening. And now, it was coming. Want part 8, the final part, next? Everything ends at the transmitter tower. What goes out over the airwaves will decide the future of what's left of dead America. The walls of the bunker groaned, giving way under the pressure of an enemy that no longer needed to break doors. It evolved, infected, and waited for mistakes. And the survivors had made many. Alex's boots pounded against the steel floor as he reached the data core. Sparks flew from torn panels. Smoke curled through the corridors. The infected were inside now, and not just the mindless ones. These were the new breed, intelligent, strategic, coordinated. Lena was already at the terminal, her hands flying across the keyboard. I'm setting a remote upload, she said. The transmitter tower still works. If I can push the raw data to any remaining satellites, maybe anyone, will hear it. Alex handed her the last of the backup drives. And the serum formulas? Wiped, she said. Only the warning will go out. No one else can make the same mistake. A thud behind them. Alex spun. Marcus stumbled into view, bleeding heavily from the side. They're in the control wing. I bought us a few minutes. That's all. Alex looked to Lena. Get to the exit tunnel. Take him. I'll finish this. She shook her head. I'm not leaving you. You have to, he said quietly. Someone needs to make sure the broadcast goes out, and someone has to make sure they don't stop it. Lena's eyes welled up. Marcus pulled her toward the door. We don't argue when we're dying, Lena. You taught me that. They left, dragging one last hope with them. Alex turned back to the console. He connected the last cable, typed the command, and watched as the data began its final upload: images, logs, audio recordings, and a voice file Dana had saved. The voice of a man trapped in the collapse. His message, once lost in static, now clear. To anyone still alive. Don't trust the silence. Don't trust the serum. And don't believe that this was ever an accident. Alex uploaded the file, set it to loop, and turned toward the main corridor. The first of them stepped into view. It looked human, almost. But the way it moved was wrong. Smooth. A predator in perfect control. Behind it, others came. Dozens. Alex raised his weapon, but he wasn't here to win. He was here to stall. He flipped open a panel beside the server. A red button. Manual detonation. Thermite rigged to the core. He smiled faintly. One last broadcast. And he pressed it. Miles away, the blast shook the earth. Lena and Marcus, crawling through the emergency tunnel, felt the heat behind them. The metal groaned but held. They emerged into the gray dawn, broken, burned, but alive. Above them stood the old transmitter tower. Still humming. Lena climbed the ladder, coughing through blood and smoke. At the top, she clipped the last drive to the signal uplink and watched the green light blink alive. A few seconds later. Static. Then the voice. Alex's voice. If you're hearing this, you're not alone. But the world you knew is gone. The infection evolved. We tried to fix it. We made it worse. Do not repeat our mistakes. Burn the research. Save the people. Then, silence. Not empty silence. Warning silence. Dead America's final broadcast now echoed across the empty sky, not as a signal of survival, but as a beacon to those still fighting. A final message before the quiet swallowed the world whole. The end. White heavy checkmark, complete in 8 parts, suspenseful, safe for YouTube, and engaging throughout. Let me know the next title whenever you're ready.